Great. Okay, so you're live now, and I'm just gonna hang out until Mitchell gets back and say hello to everybody. Okay. The Hearts and Brothers in their man caves. Oh no, that's after.
Here we are, the evil empire.
Have a great show, you guys.
All right, thank you, Andy.
Okay.
Good evening, welcome everybody. Monday night, September the 27th, we're at it. We're at the end, Merrill, aren't we?
I think so. We're getting, this is prime time baseball now.
Yeah, it's time.
Great pennant races. I think the pennant races are, particularly the wild card races, are as close and as exciting as I can remember.
5 teams in the American League.
That's right.
Are in the hunt. It just doesn't get any better. And I was watching, I don't know why there were afternoon games on Monday of the last week of the season.
I don't get that either.
But I watched.
Joey Votto had a big one today.
He's had a great
Votto
year.
hit 2 home runs and drove in 4 runs.
He's had a magnificent year. At any rate, I was watching the Tigers and the White Sox. Man, they got into a brouhaha over Abreu slid into second base. Looked like he kicked the shortstop in the nuts.
Excuse me.
Well, maybe we could be a little less graphic. We could say he kicked him.
You could have said he did a ball too.
We could say he kicked him in the groin area, but I would say for all those Joe Six-Packs out there, he kicked him in the nuts. And if I got kicked in the nuts, I would probably take exception to that, and which Goodrum did, and they all ended up on the field, but it was all phony baloney. And you know why?
I do not. Please tell me.
The White Sox are desperate to inject 100 milligrams of energy into their asses because they've cruised to the title and haven't had any competition all summer. And they are in harm's way in a short post-season playoff. They could go belly up.
As it were, we've seen in the past teams that it happened to the Dodgers a few years ago, who coasted to their divisional championships. And in some cases, teams have literally clinched the division championship 2 or 3 weeks before the end of the season. Came out in the playoff competition flat, flatter than a pancake, flat. And you're right. It could have been, to some degree, who knows, maybe Abreu was instructed to do a hard high leg slide.
I think it was a staged dust up.
By the way, that would be.
They are sound asleep.
That would be vintage Tony La Rosa. I think.
What about him?
So you want to? I think probably what the audience would like is for us to go plunge straight ahead into handicapping where this thing is going to end up. The season, I believe, ends Sunday. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
So Sunday would be October 2. Is that correct?
That is also correct.
Let's go.
All right.
Bring it on.
All right. So I have done some, sent you some information.
I did. I found the article on the survey of potential major league cities absolutely fascinating.
And it makes your head hurt.
What
it makes your head hurt.
We'll get to that in a few minutes. The eye opener for me was not particularly what cities were suggested, but how many cities there were.
No, I'm not
That's
into that
just-
topic. I'm into the postseason.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying. Yeah, I know. I said we'll get to
Well,
that in a few
I'm going to
minutes.
talk about that because I was shocked at the candor they had about disfavoring any city with large percentages of African Americans, but we'll get to that later.
Okay.
I mean, I can't believe what I read, and there is some legitimacy to it, but I want to delay this until we get to that.
Absolutely. Okay.
Because they did not hold back. If you had a large African American population, basically they didn't want you to locate a team there.
Well, it's not a secret. I'll just say this and we'll move on to the pennant races. It's not a secret that African American participation in as players, I don't particularly know why, but fan interest in baseball has declined significantly in recent years.
Well, that's why you have the RBI program by Major League Baseball.
Right.
I'm not sure. I can't recall, Merrill.
Do you know what does that acronym stand for?
I'm trying to.
I didn't mean to do that to you.
No. That's fine because it's bugging me.
But no, baseball is aware of it and has taken steps. But there is a clear preference in that demographic group for football and basketball. Games in which, in many respects, Black people dominate as stars.
I want to get on to the pennant races, but since you asked me, I'm trying to find out what RBI stands for. It's something in the inner city, but I can't seem to.
Well, I think it suffices, Mitch, to say this initiative, I believe, was launched under Bud Selig. It's been underway for several years. I think the point is baseball is aware of this issue, is concerned about it, and has taken positive action to try to address it. Although I don't know to what extent there's been much success.
Yeah, well, it's called it's not runs batted in. It's a different.
Don't worry about it.
It's a youth baseball.
It's a youth baseball invitation incentive to get young people, particularly kids in school, to take an interest in baseball. They really kind of
inner city youth.
It's an inner city initiative. What's
AKA African Americans.
There you go.
So let's move into the last week of the season, if we may.
Okay.
So the Yankees are now on top of the wild card standings after a rather impressive 3-game sweep over the Red Sox. And I was listening to that game on my iPod last night. I had the Green Bay San Francisco game on television, and I had the play-by-play on the radio, and I can tell you the Red Sox got screwed on a swing and a miss by Giancarlo Stanton on a foul tip that Vasquez caught, but they said he didn't hold it long enough. It was a strikeout to end the inning. They got screwed, in my opinion.
Okay. I cannot remember any instance in baseball where there's been a timing element or a calibration on a foul tip caught by the catcher of how long he has to hold the ball. I can't believe that.
He held the ball.
We're making up rules. Are we making up rules as we go?
I flipped over from the Boston feed to the Yankee feed, and I know
what was their take?
Well, of course, the Boston feed said that they got the shaft, which they did.
Right.
The Yankee feed was a little more flip-flopping like a dolphin at SeaWorld. So the Yankee feed essentially validated the complaint that they had a foul tip and a strikeout to end the inning.
Well, kudos to the Yankee feed. If the Yankee broadcast booth, the television or radio, whatever, acknowledged there was a controversy, kudos for them, because I can foresee in some situations where the quote-unquote homer broadcast
That's right. Well, the Yankees
would not even bring it up.
The Yankees are right now in the catbird seat. They're one game lead over Boston with today's Monday. They're not playing today. So they're going to finish out the season on Sunday. The Blue Jays are a game behind. What a race. What a wonderful, wonderful race. The Mariners are only 2 games behind the Red Sox.
Next to the Detroit Tigers, the Seattle Mariners are one of my surprise teams of the season. They have played somewhat respectably.
And the Oakland Athletics, who are on a mini run of their own, having won 3 in a row, they're only 3 games out. So Stanton and Judge, say what you want.
31 homers for Stanton, I think, and 38 for Judge.
They have acquitted themselves relatively well without missing time. And so the question is, which 2 teams do you believe of these 5 teams on the hunt have the best chance of meeting in the play-in wild card game?
I've got the Yankees and Toronto for that. The interesting thing about the Yankees, I've been saying all year.
Oh, wait a minute. You got the Yankees and Toronto?
No, I didn't say at Toronto. You
got the Yankees and
Toronto. That's what I said.
Why do you say that?
Both teams are playing well, and I have said all year that I didn't think the Yankees had sufficient starting pitching to go to the playoffs. But the Yankees have won all year when they've hit. When they don't hit, they don't win. When they do hit, they win despite rather questionable pitching other than Garrett Cole. The Toronto Blue Jays, if the Toronto Blue Jays had not even a remarkable starting rotation, but a starting rotation something like Houston's, they probably would have won the division. They have so much hitting.
I have to take issue with you on the Blue Jays for this reason.
Ryu has been in a slump.
Ryu is coming back and he's going to make 2 starts, but I don't think he's right.
Okay.
I don't think, if you're counting on Ryu to get to the playoffs, I think you're hurting. Now, according to what I am reading and what I sent you this afternoon, some of the pundits, you and I are not pundits. We are some other word.
We're fakers.
We are bullshit artists, which is the pundits say, I would never claim to be a pundit because there's nothing. Well, listen, the pundits told me all week long, I go on my 3-mile walk every day, and the pundits told me for 6 straight days to start Josh Fields. You know what Josh Fields' a passing yardage was?
I think he was passing yardage maybe 60 yards.
No, negative. He had a negative passing yard. He had 68 yards of passing and a 69 yard in penalties. He had negative passing. And the pundits told me all week long, oh, you got to put Josh. Well, at any rate, that's football. Let's move on. So you're saying this is your prediction is that the Mariners or either the Mariners or the Athletics will likely be out of the race by Thursday. And the reason they're saying
because of the schedule they have.
That's where I'm going. because Seattle and Oakland are facing each other, and they
Right.
both, the last time I looked, they both can't win. The AL West, Houston has not yet clinched the AL West, but they will. They're going to win. They have a 5-game edge over the Mariners with 6 games to play. Oakland visits Houston to end the season. The Mariners host the Los Angeles Angels. Who do the Boston Red Sox play in their last 6 games?
I think they've got a really rough schedule.
They do. They're playing the Baltimore Orioles and the Washington Nationals.
I know you were going to say that.
Now, having said that, can I make a statement to you?
Sometimes you just really
I'd almost rather face a good team.
Sometimes you don't want to play the bottom feeders when you need to win the most.
I'd almost.
They're under no pressure. They're just going to go out and have fun.
I'd almost rather face a good team.
A competing team.
That's under pressure.
I understand.
A bad team
I
that's out of
understand.
the race and just going out there and having Little League Baseball on your dime. So Boston does have the easiest finish to the season in the American League. 6. Now, the 6 games are on the road, so that brings me to my next question. Is there any real difference in baseball between playing at home and on the road? Is there any real difference?
Not like there is in the NBA and the NFL.
Why do you say that?
In my opinion, it's the fan dynamic in the stands. There's nothing like playing a big NFL game in your home stadium. Same with the NBA.
Well, Yogi
Baseball, not so much.
As Yogi Berra said, there's nothing in the planet more exciting than the opening home baseball game, even when it's on the road.
Yes, he also said there's a reason nobody ever goes to this restaurant. You have to wait too long in line to get in.
And he said if you buy Aflac, if you get hurt at work, it won't hurt if you get hurt at work.
And he said that the game of baseball is 90%. You know this better than I. I'm gonna mess it up.
No, he said the game of baseball is 50% of game of baseball is 90% mental. Now, we have this potential, Merrill, a very high potential for the following scenario. That is, in the American League and the National League, it exists, but not to quite the same degree. But in the American League, there is a real chance 2 teams could end up on Sunday evening with the identical same record. Now, if they do that, the playoffs are supposed to start on Tuesday, October 5th. But here is a tiebreaker scenario. If you have 2 teams in the American League that finish in a dead heat, they will play a 1-game wild card game. The team with a better head-to-head record. So let's say that Oakland and Seattle end up with an identical record. The MLB will look at the record in competition between Seattle and Oakland over the 2021 season, and the team that has won the most games, and they seem to be an odd number, because the first thought that crossed my mind, what, they played 18 games and they each won 9. Then what do you do? That doesn't appear to be an issue. if you have a two-way tie atop the wild card standings, the team with a better head-to-head record will host the American League play-in game. Okay. Now
there's got to be a second criterion after records of the teams against each other in the event of teams that split their season series right down the middle. Is there not another stage, another tiebreaker beyond that? Maybe total runs scored, the plus minus runs scored in their 18 or 19 games they played. Well, first of all, in the division, I believe the division teams play each other 19 times. So there's not going to be a flat 9-9 or 10-10. And that may be the reason they're scheduled for 19 games, is to avoid that kind of circumstance.
So it appears. So if two teams, now that I gave you the scenario, if you have a two-way tie in the wild card standings, let me ask you this, could you have in the American League two ties? Could you have a tie in the East and a tie in the West?
I think you could.
Absolutely. So if two teams are tied for the second wild card spot, the team with a better head-to-head record hosts the other in a tie-break game, and the winner will go to the road. So it's conceivable that on Monday and Tuesday you could have a one-game tiebreaker between Seattle and Oakland, and a second American League tiebreaker between the Yankees and Boston.
That's absolutely right.
That's how close it is.
Yeah.
Am I making your head hurt?
Yes, you are.
In the event that the top three wildcard teams finish with the exact same record. So in this scenario, for example, the Red Sox, Oakland, and the Mariners all finish with identical records. They would need two more games to determine the wild card matchup. Excuse me. First, two of the teams would face off with the winner earning a spot in the wild card game. The loser of that contest would visit the third team the following night, and the winner of that game would advance to the wild card game. So how do you decide who is the third team? If you have three teams with the identical same one-loss record, well, how does one team become the third team that sits on their butts on Tuesday and waits until Wednesday? Do you have the answer to that?
I'm fresh out of ammunition on that. This will be a problem for Rob Manfred and his skilled coterie of executive suite aides.
The Dallas Cowgirls are in front of Philadelphia 7-0. No, we're just having fun here.
This is a reprehensible affront to all Dallas Cowboy fans.
To which I say,
don't. Yeah. What did you do before the show tonight?
I had some pork.
That'll be fine. That will be fine.
So now we know the issues and the challenges for a wild card team. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you're going to have the answer to this. Were not the Washington Nationals a wild card team in the year of our Lord 2019?
They were the wild card team. Atlanta won the division that year. What I don't understand, I'm trying to get my arms around is how the Nationals, as the wild card team, hosted the Brewers, it must be that the Nationals had a superior regular season record to Milwaukee. I thought Milwaukee had won the division. I'm in error on that point because the Milwaukee Brewers, up until this year, and they're going to win the division, had not won a National League divisional race in many years. So my thinking is the Nationals hosted that game. It was a game between two wild cards. The Nationals hosted the game because they had the better record of the two.
Okay, but I mean, you understand and you will agree with me that the statistical odds of a wild card team progressing into the World Series and indeed winning the World Series championship are fairly long odds against such an occasion, right?
That's right. That's right. When next I speak, please consult your telephone for a message from me.
I did. I've answered already.
That'll be fine. Thank you.
I'm in the chat room, and we have in the chat room Lenny and Andrea. Hello to Lenny and Andrea. We have guest Armando, who I think is Mitch, because I think that I failed to log in and I went into the chat room. And so,
well, do you have a question for yourself?
my name is Armando.
My name is. That'll be fine.
Jose Jimenez.
We can bring up demographic discussions during the franchise part of the program.
Since Major League Baseball expanded its playoff format in the year of our Lord of 2012, no, meaning zero American League wildcard teams have won the World Series.
That is kind of surprising, isn't it?
The 2014 Giants and the 2019 Nationals both were wildcard teams that proceeded on to win the World Series. So let me wrap up the American League this way. Tell me who the two wildcard teams are going to be in the American League.
Well, I said New York and Toronto. I think you make an excellent point on Toronto. So I will go based on schedules from that to New York and Boston. Mostly because notwithstanding, you don't want to play a team that has no pressure on it. But the fact of the matter is indisputable. If you have 6 games left in the season, you couldn't wish for more than to play the current Nationals and the current Orioles.
I kind of halfway disagree with you in that the record is replete with examples of bottom feeders at the
I'm not saying
the season screwing the
I'm not saying that doesn't happen. What I'm saying is, if you're trying to make the playoffs, would you? The team you play, if you play a really good team that's maybe a competing team like you have with Oakland, Seattle, yes, they're under a lot of pressure too. Sometimes pressure brings out better performance than being having your season essentially having been over for a month or something like the Orioles and the Nationals.
I didn't have time to finish this, but I started it because I waited too long. Because the pitching matchups, Merrill, I think are critical in the next 6 days. And so I looked at some of the pitching matchups.
Is Max Scherzer pitching for Los Angeles tomorrow? Do you know?
I'm talking American League first.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
The Astros versus Tampa tomorrow. Michael Wacha to Urquidy. Who do you give the edge to?
Wacha has pitched all year to something like a 6.44 to 6.80 ERA. Urquidy has been in and out, and really I can't tell you what his pitching line is. But in the abstract, is that game in Tampa or Houston?
It's got to be in Tampa. They have a better record than Houston.
Oh no, this is the regular season. This is a regular season game. It's just
I beg your pardon. I don't know. I can't tell you right now. But
if the game is in Houston, I definitely would favor Urquidy over Waka.
I give it to Urquidy.
Okay.
Now the Athletics versus the Mariners tomorrow.
Right.
Chris Bassett versus Kikuchi.
I've got Bassett in that, and kudos to Bassett, who took a terrible batted ball in the face a couple of weeks ago and came back. I believe his last start, he was on an innings limit, but he pitched 4 really strong innings for the A's. So I think I would give the edge to Bassett.
Wins to the Yankees versus Toronto. Garrett Cole versus Jose Barrios.
Garrett Cole.
I agree. Boston versus the Orioles.
Right.
Nate.
Anybody on the Orioles starting pitching staff, you got to favor Boston. I don't care who Boston's throwing out there.
Let me finish my thought. You are right. You are absolutely right. Eovaldi versus Lowther. Lowther.
I have nothing against Lowther, but I don't think he has a distinguished record or has established himself as a pro. Eovaldi, we know, has had a couple of sparkling postseasons, including in the Red Sox World Series against the Dodgers in 2018.
The Philadelphia Eagles tackle Dak Prescott in the end zone. He turns the ball loose and they cover it for 7 points. Just in case we have anybody interested.
Okay.
The National League wild card.
That was Ezekiel Elliott they dropped for that tackle and who dropped the ball, not the quarterback.
No, it said Prescott. I just saw it.
I just saw the replay on TV.
Prescott fumbled.
That's what maybe it was. Okay, go ahead. Okay.
It was, according to my update, it doesn't make any difference. It's tied 7-7. And we know we want the bovine cartel to lose whenever you're the alleged fans, the masochistic fans of the Washington football team, known previously as the Washington Redskins, or colloquially for the last 20 years to their loyal fans as the Washington Deadskins. So let's talk about the National League. The Giants and the Dodgers are separated by 2 games. The Giants are playing the Padres and shucks, who else are they playing? And the Diamondbacks.
They're playing the Diamondbacks in this initial series. They're closing with the Padres. So they've got the Diamondbacks. I don't think they're not playing today.
Milwaukee is locked into the number 2 seed in the National League, meaning no matter if the Giants or the Dodgers win the Western Division,
right,
Milwaukee cannot be more than a number 2 seed.
Right, because there are 15 or 16 games fewer wins.
So Milwaukee will host a wild card game, according to what I'm saying. And they will have to beat a wild card team in a wild card game That's what I'm reading. I didn't know if you won a division title, you ever ended up in a one game, but you can.
Explain that to me, please.
All right, I'll say it again. The second place team in the NL West will have the second best record in the National League. We okay?
Correct.
In fact, they probably have the second best record in Major League Baseball.
Correct.
Which shows another issue we could talk for an hour on. The system should be, I digress, but I can't help myself. The system for who goes to the playoffs should be on your one-loss percentage and not have nothing to do with the division. The divisions are irrelevant.
I agree.
It says the second place team in the National League West will have the second best record in the National League and the majors, but well, that's not true because Tampa will have a better record than than Milwaukee. But we'll have to host a wild card game to get into the postseason series play. St. Louis, which has, I think, something like a 4.5 game lead for the wild card over the second wild card team. The first wild card team is going to be San Francisco or LA. Now that's done. You're finished. That's over. End of story. The second wild card team is the only one up for grabs, and that will be St. Louis or
Philadelphia, or perhaps maybe
Philadelphia is way, way out of it for the wild card. The only chance Philly's got is to beat Atlanta about 3 games in a row.
That's right.
So the St. Louis will almost certainly be.
All right. So the wild card teams are going to be either the non-division winner, Dodgers or Giants, and St. Louis, I believe. That's going to be the wild card.
St. Louis will be the road team for the wild card game, even after winning 16 straight.
Because they're going to play either the Dodgers or Giants.
That's right. The Padres were eliminated. Did you know that? They were eliminated.
I think they were. I think the Padres are at a flat 500 record now. This is after starting the season 20 games over 500. They just collapsed.
So let's look at the schedule. The Dodgers play the Padres and the Brewers. The Giants play the Diamondbacks and the Padres. Who has a tougher record without regard to home or away?
The Dodgers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
So,
sir, times 10.
And the Dodgers have not.
There's no comparison. Now, they both play the Padres, so that's a wash.
The
Padres, so that's a wash. But I'd rather be playing the Diamondbacks than the Brewers.
Thank you. The Dodgers have not hit as you would consider team hitting since the All-Star break, but they've won. And they cannot catch the Giants no matter what they do. So I think they're going to finish.
Who, the Dodgers?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think they're only 2 games out.
They've been playing.
But you can.
They've been playing topsy-turvy. They have not. They have not. What's the
All
old
you
thing
need
is what was that thing we wrote on in the schoolyard? They've been doing this for the Giants for 2 months, and they will get to as close as a game from San Francisco, and they always lose.
Teeter-totter?
Tater-totter.
Are you a teeter-totter too?
Well, let's not get into my personal.
Are you a teeter-totter?
No, I don't think so.
I'm going to report.
Whether I'm a teeter-totter does not matter.
I'm going to report
you. It's a player named Matter.
I think I'm going to report you to the rabbi as a teeter-totter.
I still think the worst name for a relief pitcher is what team he's on.
Falter.
You got a wedge pitcher whose name is Falter. I'm not bringing him in. I'm not using him.
Falter. Could you have
the best job he can get on my team is to pitch trash time. if Fowler falters, it won't be that
So-
awful.
So here's the Cardinals. The Dodgers played 3 with the Padres, 3 with the Brewers. Giants played 3 with the Diamondbacks, 3 with the Padres. Cardinals played 3 versus the Brewers and 3 versus the Cubs. The Brewers are no giveaway, but the Cardinals are in. I mean, when you're 4.5 games ahead, the only team left, San Diego, has been eliminated. Who's left? Philadelphia?
Yeah.
They'd have to win every game. The Cardinals have to lose every game. They still wouldn't win. The Braves are playing the Phillies and the Mets. And the Phillies are playing the Braves and the Marlins. Which schedule would you prefer?
Tell me who they're playing again.
The Braves are playing the Phillies in the New York Metropolitans.
Okay.
And the Phillies are playing the Braves and the Miami Marlins.
Then you would want the Phillies schedule.
That's my point.
You would want the Phillies schedule, but the good news for the Braves is I believe they are pretty safe for that National League East.
They only have a 2.5 game lead, but I think you're right. If Philadelphia goes down there tomorrow night, the Phillies go to Atlanta, and it's going to be Aaron Nola against Max Fried. Over under 60-40, Max Fried. That's what I say.
I agree. I think Fried pitched a 9. I think Fried went the distance in his most recent start. Fried has been pitching well. Nola has been in and out. Nola was one of the sparkling pitchers in the league a couple of years ago. And he does have a pretty good swing and miss rate, but he has been in and out as a starter this year.
Ranger
He
Suarez.
gets hit about every third game. He gets hit hard.
Ranger Suarez
He's going to be the new ace.
has been the best starting pitcher in the Phillies rotation since about August the 15th.
Look for
He
2022.
has been Ranger Suarez.
Suarez will be no lower than second Buana in their rotation next year.
He won't be number one. Wheeler will be number one. No, it'll be Wheeler, Nola, and then Suarez.
I think Suarez might overtake Nola.
They won't do that. I can tell you that. You can take that to the bank.
Oh, that's based on salary then. It's based on salary and not pitching performance.
Well, we're just having fun here.
We can have a separate discussion. Not tonight. You've got a really solid agenda there tonight. But we can have a separate discussion sometime, and should, on the extent to which Chris Davis of the Baltimore Orioles is Exhibit A, the extent to which players unaccountably appear every day in the lineup, even though they're not producing. To what extent is there a direct connection between that and their salary? Chris Davis would be, of the Orioles, would be Exhibit A. He's retired now, and I'm not trying to pick on a man when he's down, but he played in the starting lineup at least 3 or 4 years when he was not producing.
All right. The Brewers square off against the Cardinals. The Brewers are in. The Cardinals are not. Woodruff versus Wainwright.
Wainwright got bumped up his most recent start. He's 40 or 41. He may be suffering from some arm fatigue. Woodruff has been solid all year. I think you got to give the edge, although narrowly, in this one to Woodruff.
All right.
By the way, Mitch, the San Diego Dodgers series opens at Los Angeles with Max Scherzer being skipped in the rotation. He is not listed He is not listed. He pitched last Wednesday. He would be up for a start tomorrow, and it's Buehler pitching instead. So what's going on with that?
I have no idea.
Wonder if he's got a hamstring problem again.
I don't know, but it's not a good sign.
I will say this. When he pitched Game 7 of the 2019 World Series, I think with a ping in his calf muscle, and struggled through 5 innings against the Astros, but held them at bay with 2 runs, even though he was struggling, was one of the guttiest performances I've ever seen.
I agree. Tomorrow night is Darvish versus Buehler. Who's the favorite?
Darvish has had a terrible second half, but Buehler has fallen off the left. He's taking Walker Buehler's day off, it appears.
Is he Ferris Bueller's brother?
I don't know. He might be Ferris Bueller's younger brother.
Okay, so tomorrow in, I think it's called Oracle Park. They changed the name like you change your underwear. I think the stadium in well, you only change your underwear once every 2 weeks, whether you need to or not.
You've been peeking again, and I don't like it.
Stop that peeking. Tomorrow night at Oracle Park is Luke Weaver against Logan Webb.
Oh, that's an open and shut Logan Webb. Luke Weaver, didn't Luke Weaver come over from the Cardinals to the Diamondbacks? Luke Weaver was a really good prospect with St. Louis, but he has not redeemed his promise.
That's right. And then following that, you have on Wednesday, the Brewers versus the Cardinals, Adrian Hauser against Miles Michaelis.
Michaelis came back from injury about a month ago and has been a little shaky, to be highlighted by none other than the fact that in what is now, a 15-game winning streak, Mr. Schilt, Schildt, the manager of the Cardinals, managed in the midst of this winning streak to provide Michaelis, I believe, with only 1 or 2 starts. He's slipped past him a couple of times.
Diamondbacks versus the Giants, Game 2. Merrill Kelly, your namesake.
It's not Merrill, it's Merrill.
Well, just call me yours.
That's what Bush told Suzanne
Malveaux
of CNN at his last news conference in the White House briefing room. She got up to ask a question on his perspective on going into Iraq to topple Saddam Hussein. And he said, "Good afternoon. I want to say before I answer this question, I owe you an apology. For the last 8 years, I've been calling you Susan, and I didn't realize your name is Suzanne. And I kind of feel badly about it because I can relate to this. My entire life, I've had people call me George."
Now, I understand that you were invited to a function at the Naval Observatory, the home of Vice President George Herbert Walker Bush, and you said to Mr.
We were in the kitchen, and I commented, "The man loved
Mr. Vice President. I like your
he loved the blue eye-shine shirts with epaulets. Being the Navy pilot that he was wearing khakis with this drop-dead blue shirt with epaulets, and trying to make some kind of conversation without asking him which war he was contemplating in the holiday season. I made some reference to how much I liked his shirt, and we went on, and a couple other things came up, and all of a sudden, inexplicably, he excuses himself and says to Mrs. Bush, I'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Excuse me. Well, it seemed like about 10 minutes, and people are having their cocktails and mixing and talking, in the Naval Observatory. And he reappears with a different shirt on, a blue sports shirt, and he has a plastic bag. And he said, "Sir, I have something in this bag for you to take with you." And he had literally taken his shirt off his back for me. He handed that shirt to me.
And had he known you were a Bill Clinton fan,
Let's not go there.
oh
No, if he'd have known I was a Bill Clinton fan, he would have given me a blue dress.
my, oh my!
I'm
So
sorry.
do you have any parting?
When you send up an EFS pitch, I'm going to hit it.
Well, that's true. I send you a softball. How about the Yankees against the Blue Jays on Wednesday? Oh, I already asked you that. Garrett Cole versus Berrios. I already asked you
Is
that.
Robbie Ray getting a start of that series? That's the man who could beat the Yankees.
Who?
Robbie Ray. Does he
I don't see him in there.
Are they playing tonight? Are New York and Toronto playing tonight?
Let me move on to the Wednesday starters for Toronto.
Okay.
I'm sorry, for Oakland and Seattle.
Okay.
Oakland has Gilbert, 6-5, 4.83 ERA. Seattle has Frankie Montas, former Los Angeles Dodger. I am loath to tell you.
That game is a toss-up. Both of these pitchers have been mediocre.
Montas has been spectacular.
He has pitched better.
In his last three,
I agree. He has pitched better.
In his last 7 games, Frankie Montas has a 1.80 ERA.
I stand corrected on that.
I'm talking about recent history, bro.
Right. Okay.
Montas in the last 7 games has a 0.96 WHIP. In the last 15 games, Montas has a 6-2 record with a 2.31 ERA and a 1.06. It's the most underreported story in baseball. He's been unhittable.
I stand corrected.
Unhittable.
I stand corrected. The edge goes to Oakland
by a long shot.
No question about it.
By a long shot. And then
the A's a famous Alameda. What's the name of their stadium?
Oakland Alameda County Stadium. I've been to every baseball stadium in America except the new Globe Life Park, and I was at the old Globe Life Park. And I can tell you unequivocally, the biggest dump in all the ballparks in baseball is the Oakland Alameda County Stadium. I rode the Bay Area Rapid Transit from San Francisco Airport. I rolled into San Francisco Airport, had my luggage with me, and got on the BART and took the BART. No, I went to my hotel at the airport, threw my luggage in the room, came out, got on the Bay Area Rapid Transit, took the train over to Oakland Alameda, got off the train, and outside the stadium was a big cache, C-A-C-H-E, cache of nitrogen tanks stored right in the parking lot of the stadium. I came into the stadium, and about every other one of the concession stands had the that thing they pull down, the steel door. You pull it down like you're in the middle of Harlem. You pull it down to keep the looters from coming to stealing your potato chips. About every other concession was closed, and there were tarpaulins that were covering essentially almost all of the top half of the stadium. It was the most depressing baseball stadium I think I've ever been to.
Well, don't forget, in order to balance this story, you've already acknowledged that you came there with some amount of baggage.
Good one. Can't throw a damn pork chop past a hungry dog. All right. So let's move. It's 9 o'clock. Let's close out tonight and talk about expansion. And I sent you this, I think, relatively excellent article.
I had trouble determining who did this survey. Something got clipped off or something in the message. Who did this survey? It's a pretty significant survey.
The gentleman's name. His name is Chris. He's Chris Mitchell. I don't know who he is.
Do you know what publication it was?
I don't know.
What publication he was fighting for?
I went on a Google search and he lists all these cities.
I understand. It's very informative. I'm just trying to. I had trouble figuring out the source of it.
But it's old information. It's an old article, but I wanted to provide us with something with a data-based discussion rather than just us giving our opinions, because opinions are like armpits. Everybody's got at least two.
Well, another thing surprising about it was how many of the prospective sites for creation of new franchises or transfer are in the Sun Belt between Texas and California. I mean,
because that's the good news is it's a warm weather area. The bad news is it's a warm weather area.
But it's a bad news is it's a warm weather area at a time of climate change, that if you do not have a stadium that can be sealed, can adversely affect. This was the reason I believe the Texas Rangers had to move from a perfectly beautiful initial Globe Field to Globe Field 2, because you went to you told me you roasted like a lobster.
I sat in Globe Life Park. You may recall the video of me sitting there. It was the night of the NBA championship.
Right. June night.
You could see me. You could see me behind home plate. It was unbearably hot.
Yeah.
And so that you have I know nothing really. All I do is I sit here with a bunch of opinions, but I try to base my opinions on some modicum level of research from relatively authoritative. Now, we know how much disinformation there is, but I don't really vet these sources that closely. But it's normally when I come on here and talk, it's not simply my opinion, but it's stuff that I've taken from another source. And
you've done the research.
This particular analysis, Merrill, I was nonplussed, and that's too weak of an adjective. I guess that's an adjective. I was nonplussed at this writer's candor in that he ranked these cities, and the more African American, the higher the African American percent of the population, the lower he ranked the city. Why is that?
As I indicated at the beginning of our program when we talked about this briefly, and as you amplified with your mention of the RBI program, whatever it is, to get young high school kids interested in baseball, the interest, generally speaking, of African Americans in baseball has plummeted over a period of decades. So I do not believe it is a racially insensitive criterion for the purchaser, the buyer of, or transfer agency or agent or club owner of a team to take demographics into account. What surprised me more than the survey findings about African Americans, what surprised me was it wasn't particularly an asset for there to be a really high Hispanic population in these markets. And yet, you look at the participation and the level of play. Let's take the Miami Marlins right out of the whole lot of the major league teams and look at the kids that are closing out the season, the young players like Cruz and some of these other players, De La Cruz, I meant to say, and the short Jazz Chisholm, the starting lineup for the Miami Marlins is almost all Latino. So I was kind of surprised about that finding, although as you point out, this was a study done not yesterday, but a while back, maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
But the econometric models that this writer is talking about, by the way, the RBI program, I still don't know what RBI stands
what the acronym is, but it was about high school baseball. I think it was a program to encourage high school kids to go out and play for the baseball team. The other oddity of that I see is, but look at the strength and the advancement of college baseball as a fan-friendly and an interesting kind of part of a big school's athletic program. College baseball is pretty big.
Well, as Lenny Milnick says, and has said many times, we don't care what your skin color is. If you can go and stand on that mound and throw a 95 mile per hour four-seam fastball that has movement, we don't care whether you're green, black, yellow, or blue. We don't care if you're 5'6" or if you're 6'6". We don't care if you weigh 160 pounds or 260 pounds. If you can take a baseball and throw it 60 feet and 6 inches with location and movement, you're in.
That's right.
You're in. Now, the RBI, and Lenny's right, the RBI program administered by Major League Baseball's Baseball and Softball Development Office or Department is designed to provide youth in underserved communities, aka poor urban areas.
Or urban centers. Poor urban center cities.
Right, where you don't have baseball fields, but you got asphalt. You got asphalt basketball hoops everywhere. So it's designed to provide youth in underserved communities with opportunities to play baseball and softball. There's no affiliation fee. There's no cost.
That's right.
To the local organization. And this program involves equipment donations. Every newly affiliated league will receive an equipment donation based on the programming your organization will be providing, whether it is structured league play or recreational play. It's a wonderful program. Those providing structured league play will receive equipment in the form of team kits. Each kit includes bats, gloves, helmets, baseball or softballs, catcher's equipment. You know, you really don't think about this, but you don't need all that much equipment to play basketball. You need a pair of basketball shoes, pair of shorts, and a doggone basketball.
What Major League Baseball?
You don't need that. You don't really need that much.
What wildly successful Major League Baseball team currently has a single African American on its active roster?
The Dodgers.
Mookie Betts.
They got more than that. Well, Kenley Jansen is Latino.
Kenley Jansen
is Spanish.
I'm telling you, they have a single African American player on the roster. And that's wrong at every level. But I'm saying
they're discriminating. It doesn't mean they're discriminating.
That's what I'm going to add. It doesn't mean the Dodgers are a discriminatory team. Aren't they the ones that? Aren't the Dodgers the ones who did the racial breakthrough with Jackie Robinson? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it buttresses this man's theory in this study, it buttresses the notion that for African Americans generally, baseball is not a great and intriguing and inviting sport now.
Okay, but here the analysis is, and this writer has the information is dated. I'm sure it's changed.
Well, what's not dated about the information are other elements of his survey, including the general economic health of those cities, the demographic nature of the number of people in these cities over 65 years, 65 or older, and the breakdown on the percentage of the population of men versus women. That's pretty valid.
Did you note the population of Riverside, California?
I couldn't believe my eyes.
It includes Rancho Cucamonga. Now, I've flown into Ontario on several occasions.
I have
Rancho Cucamonga is a farm team, I think, still of the Dodgers.
It is.
Ontario, California.
It's San Bernardino, Ontario.
It's in the San Bernardino Valley. Rancho Cucamonga, 4.3 million people.
That caught my eye faster than anything. What's the population of Los Angeles, of the greater metropolitan statistical area?
Los Angeles probably 7 to 8 million. But
okay, but would you have guessed that about Riverside?
This is called the Inland Empire.
Right.
I flew all the way when I was a consultant. I got an airplane in Richmond, Virginia, and flew to Ontario, California, to meet with a client to discuss a business proposition. We went to a steakhouse. I arrived in California around 2:30 Pacific Standard Time. I went, checked into the hotel and tried to take a nap. I had a buddy pick me up at the hotel who was staying there. We went out to a steakhouse. It had about 4 bottles of expensive red wine and talked about a business deal. And I was on the next plane out at 6 a.m. California time back to Richmond. And I was back to Richmond by about, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 6 a.m. would have been 9 a.m. Maybe it's 2 o'clock. And I never had jet lag because I flew to California and had dinner and flew back so fast my body didn't even understand what the hell was going on. But I can tell you the Inland Empire is absolutely huge. Now, the other places he's got are San Diego. You have Las Vegas. Now, listen.
No, I didn't see San Diego mentioned on the entire list.
I'm sorry, San Jose. San Jose.
Okay.
San Jose is 1.9 million. It's probably more than that now.
Sacramento. He's got Sacramento there.
What he's using in his assessment is not really an algorithm. It's more like a template. He's looking at the support for minor league baseball in these times, and he's attempting to make an extrapolation on the enthusiasm for minor league baseball. Can it transfer to major league? And there's some validity in that, but there are also limitations. The Atlanta Braves, because Richmond had a ballpark that stinks called the Diamond, they're still using it.
Yeah.
The Atlanta Braves pulled the AAA farm team out of Richmond and moved them to Gwinnett, Gwinett, which I drove to, which is a highly Latino and Hispanic neighborhood, which is nothing wrong with that. I'm not suggesting that because the folks love baseball just like I do. But they moved that AAA team out of Richmond to Gwinnett, about 35 miles northeast of Atlanta. And the attendance in Richmond at that dump of a ballpark with a double-A farm team of the San Francisco Giants.
The Flying Squirrels.
The Flying Squirrels attendance has exceeded in every year the attendance of the Gwinnett Braves.
There you go.
because Richmond is a great baseball team. Then he mentions Austin, Texas, which is a boom town, and San Antonio. I've spent time in San Antonio, which I love. I've spent time in Austin, which I
He
love.
actually calls
The
San
difference,
Antonio.
between, the difference between San Antonio and Austin is
It's the economy. It's the
Hey.
economy.
What's that?
It's the economy.
San Antonio is top heavy with service industry, and Austin, Texas is top heavy with academia,
Research, technology, all of it.
automation, artificial intelligence.
All of the labor force erogenous zones of cities that are growing versus those that are not. Not only that, the median income in San Antonio, I was stunned to see, was $26,000 per household. That's almost non-livable wages.
Very poor community. But if you haven't been on
A
the
beautiful city.
you've been to Venice. You and I went to Venice with our wives.
Right.
Listen, San Antonio is the closest thing to Venice that you're going to find in the United States. So if you haven't been there, run, don't walk to your nearest airport and get an airplane ticket to San Antonio, because that Riverwalk. But I digress. Some of the other
For balance purposes, we should note that the people who did this study predicted, although we've only mentioned U.S. cities, predicted that Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, is going to insist in an expansion or relocation environment that at least one of two, likely they would only do two at a time, be either Canadian or Mexican city.
Well, Mexico.
He wants to give it more.
Mexico City is 10 million plus people, but people don't have any money. You have to have money. You went with me.
This is why Montreal failed.
You went with me. You've been going to these games with me. It's cost me $1,000 to take my family to a Nats game, and $82.50 to park in a parking lot. And they tell you when you can come in the lot and tell you when you can leave.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The Washington Nationals have the worst parking of any professional sport in America. It's an absolute ripoff. But here's my point on: were you nonplussed to see Providence, Rhode Island on the list?
Yes, because you're talking about a Peter Angelos, Lerner's, Ted Lerner kind of conflict there, because the Red Sox really could make an argument for claiming. We've all been to the great Northeast, and we've been to Boston many times. We've been to Cape Cod. You've got a territorial issue there.
Providence is about the same distance from Beantown as Washington is from
That's
Boston.
right. That's right.
Then, of course, you have the old standbys, Charlotte, which is a booming town. And they actually said in the analysis there were too many African Americans. I was like, my, this whoever this is.
I'll say this
Why do you
again.
say there's too many African Americans?
At first blush, this could be construed as a racial kind of race-baiting rendering in the study, but it is a. These are business people who bring baseball to your city.
They have algorithms that show who go to baseball
exactly.
games and who go to basketball games. They're not stupid. They know.
It doesn't matter what it is construed as. These are businesses and businessmen and women who make these decisions. And it's based on, if we invest up to bring a team to our city, who will constitute the fan base and how likely will it be that we succeed.
How about San Juan, Puerto Rico? I've been there. There's nothing on this planet.
Great sangrias.
Nothing better than being at the Marriott in San Juan, out there in the at the Cabana.
Yeah, with a jug of sangria.
Throwing down those sangrias, homemade, fresh fruit sangrias. San Juan cannot, in my humble opinion,
doesn't have the economic base.
Baseball.
It's a poor country.
I spent a week in Ponce evaluating the Ponce Community College. This has been many years ago. I will admit that, but I was absolutely shocked that the community college teachers in Ponce, Puerto Rico, were making about $27,000 a year, and they were at the top of the feeding chain in that community in terms of economic well-being. They're being paid about $27,000.
If they were making $27,000 a year, which would look horrible here, they were making.
This is 20 or 30.
If they were making it there, they were living among the best of any people living there.
That's what I'm saying. So then he goes into the other standbys: Portland, Nashville. He's got Virginia Beach in here, and I live in Richmond. I live 16 miles from downtown Richmond. Richmond standard metropolitan statistical area is now about 1.6 million people. Richmond has virtually the same population as Indianapolis and Cincinnati. Not many people realize this.
That is correct.
Richmond has been on an absolute roll now.
But I think you will also agree that the political leadership in Richmond, and this is not a partisan statement, it has applied to independents, Democrats, Republicans, blacks, whites, whatever. There has not been a sufficient strength of leadership in Richmond to bring a baseball, a kind of stadium to that city that could attract a baseball team.
We have a proposal underway in Henrico County. You're familiar with it.
Our listeners who are not familiar with Richmond, that's a fairly well-to-do suburb of Richmond.
Well, in the western part, the eastern part, it's fourfold.
Right.
It's bifurcated. It's divided. The I-95 divides Henrico County between the have and have-nots. Not good. Right. But the good news is the assimilation of a lot of formerly poor people and people who could not aspire to homes in good neighborhoods. Over the last 10 years, a lot of the people have moved into better neighborhoods, and God bless them. And so, but what I'm trying to say is, in Henrico County, there is the Planning Commission, and I am the chairman of the Planning Commission in the town where I live. So I know something about how this process works. The Henrico County Planning Commission has approved a 17,000 seat hockey basketball arena at the intersection of, where I'm talking about, I-95
Is it near I-95 and what they call Parham Road?
It's actually Atlee-Elmont.
That's further out. That Atlee-Elmont, I think, is maybe 5 or 6 miles past the city limit. I know where that is.
Right. So the issue with San Jose is what?
Well, you've got a potential
San Jose is
with the territorial rights of the Giants. Apparently, have territorial rights there.
You will not be shocked to be informed that the Giants aren't keen to have another baseball team, but to me, it's a wash because if Oakland relocates there, what's the difference between Oakland being across the Bay Bridge and being in San Jose?
I don't get that either.
And then he says San Jose looks great, but it's not without a flaw. For one, its population is highly educated. Whoops. Are you telling me you don't like educated people to come to the game? Or are you telling me that your prediction models show that the more education you have, the more likely you are to go to the opera house and less likely you are to go to the ballpark? Because I go to both.
Whatever it tells you, calling that a minus could never apply to the Washington Nationals, which is their baseball stadium, National Stadium, in the area of the city nearest to the United States Capitol, is heavily pelted with celebrities and people of high accomplishment in this city and people with senior executive service jobs and departments of government. But that's an anomaly about Washington, which is another anomaly about Washington where I live, is in the football, the NFL team experiences this more than either the baseball or NBA or the hockey team. Hardly anybody in Washington is a native of Washington.
Well, that's true.
75% of the people in Washington are from somewhere else. So the other phenomenon you have at National Stadium is the Braves come here, you see 6,000 or 7,000 people wearing Braves uniforms, or the Yankees Yankee uniforms. There's somebody from every city. There are probably 20,000 Boston Red Sox fans in this city. That's what I'm saying.
All right, that's fine. How about Austin, Texas, a boomtown? I think I mentioned that before. And although Texas, here's another trend, Merrill. Were you surprised that they're candor in saying that they're looking at the ratio of male population to female population? Yeah, I haven't been to any ball games, but I see women all over the place. I don't get this. The women are.
I don't particularly get that because, like you, I'm a baseball fan. I go to games. There's no paucity of women at games. My good Lord. I mean, they're.
But were you surprised?
There are a lot of women baseball fans.
Were you surprised in the analysis I sent you how many times for each of the cities they took the measure of the ratio of the male population to the female population?
They did in almost every city surveyed.
Why?
Because there's this shibboleth about baseball that basically the people who go are old white men with white hair and are 65 and over. And our objective is to try to fill these seats with a broader spectrum of the population.
You didn't say with beer guts.
Well, then add that.
Are you
let's not get personal here.
Are you a beer gut too? What did you think about Sacramento?
You've had too many burritos when you got a bigger gut than the umpires, but then you can't compare yourself to the umpires. Remember when umpires were all really, really, really heavy, man? Anymore, they're in better shape than some of the players.
The umpires are looking relatively svelte. SVELTE. Don't ask me what it means. I don't know. But the umpires look. Now look, we only got a couple more minutes. Did I use the word properly?
I would have used the word spindly.
Do what?
Spindly or spiny, like olive oil.
Well, that's
not the treatment for food. I'm talking about Popeye's friend.
That's how when we went to when we went to Rome, you could spot a Yankee 150 feet away because they were all having watermelons. All the guys had watermelons in their stomach.
Well, don't forget my faux pas in this beautiful cafe in Venice. They said, "Who is this guy that's asking for decaffeinated coffee? We're kicking him out of the country."
Now that'd take you out back and whip your ass.
It'll take me out and give me 40 lashes.
Yeah, I don't know how dare you.
I would probably deserve it.
Well, the only thing I could drink, if you remember, in Rome, was a latte because the coffee was so strong I couldn't drink it.
Espresso.
I can't do it. It tears me up. Well,
that's why you went on a Chianti diet.
It was tough duty, but somebody
you had to hold the flags somehow.
There's only one problem with the Chianti in Rome, and what is that?
I don't know. Not enough to go around.
Oh, there was plenty to go around. The problem is you're never satisfied with Chianti back here in the States after you've had Chianti.
That's right.
In Rome. So on that bright note, I bid you adieu.
Adieu. To finish with a French finale.
Much enjoy, and I want to put a plug in for all the other shows on the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports.
Oh, there's such a good lineup.
Yeah, Lenny every morning at 9 o'clock like clockwork. Every now and then the Roto lady rolls in and shares a time with him. They're on Sunday morning, both of them, the lady and the legend, at 9 o'clock in between their X Sirius XM gigs.
Yep.
On Sunday night, you have George Hushman, and you have King Hap on Wednesday.
It's a good lineup.
It's an excellent lineup, and we urge you to listen to all these folks and to make suggestions for topics you want to hear. So you and I have been talking a lot about the off season, and it becomes a long off season. I'll tell you what could really turn the hot stove.
It's going to turn hot with the collective bargaining agreement going on.
The hot stove could turn ice cold with the collective bargaining negotiations going on. And I had that on my agenda. So we'll take that up next week because I need to do a little bit more research because I have qualifying offers and some other things on there. And so that is worthy of discussion. But what I'm trying to say is, last winter was a rough time. Didn't we go into February 1st with like 150 baseball players without gigs?
Well, the MLB Players Association filed a court suit, if you recall, that got thrown out because there were something like 175 major league players as late as February 1st. We're talking 2 weeks from the time pitchers and catchers were reporting to the camps.
In the United States,
they were talking about 175 baseball players had no contract.
I will say one thing and we'll say goodnight. In the United States of America, I know of no law that requires a business to hire Merrill Merchant at X number of dollars for X number of years.
Right.
If there is such a law, please do so educate me, because I'm not aware of any law.
There is such a law.
Nor do I favor any such.
There is no such law, and if there were one, then it would need to be repealed.
Well, there you go. All right, then I say
bye-bye.
Good night and good luck.
And good luck.
All right.